There's a certain kind of silence before history turns a corner, the quiet right before something familiar becomes something else entirely. Picture a stretch of American highway at dawn, the light catching on a new silhouette that feels both legendary and strange. It's a machine born from decades of noise, rebellion, and pride, yet now it hums with a different kind of energy. You can feel the anticipation, not just from drivers, but from an entire city that helped define what horsepower even means. This is the story of how an icon was reimagined, the risk of rewriting tradition in real time, and why the future of power might still have Detroit's heartbeat at its core. Stick around. We're diving deep into the evolution, the controversy, and the comeback that has everyone watching. If you love the sound of change rolling through the automotive world, hit like, subscribe, and tell us what car or era you want to see next. The Ford Mustang 2025 didn't just arrive. It landed with the weight of 60 years of heritage pressing against every curve, vent, and voltage line. When Ford's engineers and designers set out to define the next generation, they weren't chasing nostalgia alone. They were trying to prove that the American muscle spirit could survive in a world where silence and sustainability rule. The 2025 Mustang stands as the 7th generation continuation of one of the most recognizable shapes in the world, but every panel hides a battle between past and progress. The long hood, the sculpted haunches, the unmistakable stance, they all whisper of power. Yet beneath that familiar skin lies an evolution of philosophy, a refined approach to how power is delivered, controlled, and understood. To grasp why this model matters, you have to rewind to a moment when Ford faced an existential question. How do you keep a legend alive without betraying its soul? The automotive industry had shifted rapidly. Electrification, regulation, and shifting buyer priorities created a new landscape. The old V8 Thunder was still adored, but the demand for efficiency, connectivity, and relevance grew louder. Within the walls of Ford's design studios in Dearborn, the debate wasn't about whether to modernize the Mustang. It was about how far to go before it stopped being a Mustang at all. Some teams argued for a full electric transformation. Others insisted the heartbeat of a combustion engine was essential. The compromise became the defining trait of the 2025 model, a fusion of analog emotion and digital intelligence. Externally, the 2025 Mustang doesn't scream revolution, it whispers it through precision. The sharper headlights, recontoured front fascia, and slightly more aerodynamic lines aren't just for aesthetics. They're the visual language of evolution. Every decision was functional. The hood was lowered just enough to improve visibility, the air vents were sculpted for real aerodynamic efficiency, and the rear diffuser wasn't just about looks, it actually helps reduce drag at highway speeds. Ford kept the fastback silhouette that made generations fall in love, but tightened the form to fit modern proportions. Designers referred to this approach as muscle precision, an idea that power can coexist with polish. Inside, the transformation is unmistakable. The cockpit of the Ford Mustang. 2025 marks the most dramatic shift since the car's original debut in 1964. Twin. Digital displays stretch across the dash, one for the driver's cluster, and one for infotainment, powered by a new software suite. Inspired by video game engines, instead of traditional analog gauges, the graphics render with lifelike motion, responding instantly to throttle input and drive modes. Some enthusiasts feared this digital leap would sterilize the rawness that defined earlier Mustangs, but Ford's interface designers worked to capture the spirit of analog performance through digital artistry. Even the exhaust note can be tuned through software, preserving the character enthusiasts crave. Under the hood, the mechanical heart remains proudly American. The 2025 Mustang offers multiple powertrains, but the spotlight inevitably shines on the reworked 5.0-liter Coyote V8. It delivers more power than before, well north of 480 horsepower, yet with a responsiveness that feels tighter, more modern. Engineers added new dual air intakes and dual throttle bodies, allowing for better airflow and more immediate throttle response. The transmission lineup also reinforces Ford's commitment to driver engagement. A 6-speed manual remains available, a choice that feels almost rebellious in 2025. The automatic, meanwhile, received recalibrations for faster shifts and improved track performance. Every decision came down to one idea. The Mustang is not just a car, it's a promise. That promise means you can still row your own gears, still feel the pull of torque through your spine, and still glance at the badge and know you're part of a lineage that shaped American automotive identity. But Ford also knows this isn't the 1960s. Buyers today expect performance that talks to satellites, interfaces with smartphones, and updates overnight. The 2025 Mustang had to speak fluently in both worlds, a hybrid of spirit and silicon. Driving it tells you how those worlds merge. The steering is sharper, the suspension more adaptable. The new MagneRide dampers read the road hundreds of times per second, constantly adjusting to maintain balance between comfort and aggression. The chassis rigidity was improved, reducing flex and sharpening the car's responses through tight corners. Yet it still feels like a Mustang. It still wants to step out, still rewards a confident right foot, still plays that delicate dance between control and chaos. Even small touches reinforce Ford's intent to blend eras. The handbrake lever, for instance, now functions electronically but mimics the tactile pull of a mechanical brake. It's not nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. It's muscle memory engineered for the modern age. The seat bolsters, stitching patterns, and even the drive mode animations all echo the lineage while pushing forward the interface of future performance cars. But the 2025 Mustang wasn't built only for showroom shine. It's meant to be driven hard and daily. Ford's testing protocols involved thousands of track miles at varying altitudes and climates to ensure that whether it was carving mountain passes or idling through downtown Detroit, the Mustang behaved with confidence. The exhaust system, now partially valved, adapts to mood and mode, quiet at dawn, thunderous when unleashed. It's mechanical theater with purpose, designed to make every commute feel like an event. Yet the deeper meaning of the 2025 Mustang lies in its cultural positioning. Ford knew that keeping the car entirely analog would mean obsolescence within years. Making it fully digital might alienate the loyal base. The middle ground became their battlefield and their triumph. The result is a machine that respects its audience enough to evolve without apology. When you stand beside the Ford Mustang 2025, it doesn't beg for validation. It exudes presence. The badge carries 6 decades of expectation, but the execution feels like an artist reinterpreting a classic song rather than remaking it. The proportions are familiar yet tighter, the lines sharper and the intent unmistakable. It is, in every sense, the bridge between what was and what must be. That's the paradox Ford embraced. To move forward, it had to remember exactly where it started. The 2025 Mustang exists as proof that heritage isn't about replication, it's about reinterpretation. Every nut line and line of code carries that understanding. Next, we'll explore how the Ford Mustang 2025 fits into the broader world it was born into, the rivalries it reignited, the controversies it sparked, and how it's reshaping Detroit's identity in a market that once threatened to leave it behind. The Ford Mustang 2025 didn't arrive in a vacuum. It roared into a market already electrified by change. When this generation hit the stage, it wasn't just another model release. It was a cultural checkpoint for an entire segment. American performance cars had been losing ground to global rivals, especially those embracing hybrid and full electric powertrains. Ford knew this Mustang had to do more than perform. It had to prove that an American icon could evolve without surrendering its identity. The Mustang 2025 became the spark that reignited a conversation about what muscle means in a digital decade. In Detroit, that conversation carried special weight. The city's history is etched into the Mustang's DNA. Every engine note, every badge, every piece of sheet metal echoes generations of workers, racers, and dreamers. But as electric vehicles rose and emissions laws tightened, the Motor City's heartbeat slowed. The Ford Mustang 2025 symbolized resistance and renewal at once. It showed that the future might still belong to Detroit if the city could reinvent its legacy without erasing it. The tension between progress and purity became the Mustang's most powerful marketing tool and its greatest risk. Ford's leadership understood that a single misstep could alienate their most devoted audience. The decision to keep the internal combustion V8 alive while future-proofing the platform wasn't just sentimental, it was strategic. Rivals were leaning heavily into full electrification, abandoning the sound and fury that once defined performance. Ford instead aimed for a middle path, combining traditional displacement with next-generation software and materials. That approach wasn't universally celebrated. Critics called it indecisive. Fans called it salvation. Either way, it kept the Mustang in headlines, and that's exactly where Ford wanted it. When journalists first tested the Ford Mustang 2025, reactions were polarizing. The performance numbers impressed, 0 to 60 mph in the low 4-second range depending on configuration. But it was the feeling behind the wheel that defined opinions. Reviewers praised its composure, the way it balanced modern refinement with raw emotion. Some lamented the extra digital layers between driver and machine, yet even they admitted that somehow the car still delivered that elusive Mustang connection. That emotional thread became Ford's victory. It proved that digital didn't have to mean detached. Motorsport further legitimized the 2025 Mustang's credentials. The GT3 and GT4 variants, purpose-built for endurance and track racing, showcased what the new chassis and powertrain could achieve under extreme pressure. The aerodynamic updates, weight distribution refinements, and advanced cooling systems derived directly from these racing programs fed back into the road car. Ford's engineers described this process as racing to refine, and it became a defining theme of the 2025 Mustang story. Every race served as validation that Detroit's most famous pony still had fight left in it. But not all the attention was celebratory. The moment Ford revealed its digital-heavy interior, a portion of the fan base accused the company of losing its soul. Forums buzzed with debate. Was the Mustang still a driver's car if so much happened through screens? Ford's response was quietly confident. Keep driving it and decide for yourself. Over time, even skeptics softened. The customization potential, from drive mode visuals to performance telemetry, turned the Mustang's dashboard into an enthusiast's playground. In a world where data is part of every experience, Ford simply made the data beautiful. Then came the aftermarket wave. The 2025 Mustang quickly became a favorite among tuners who saw new potential in its electronics. Digital control modules meant tuning could be more precise, even safer. Traditionalists still swapped exhausts and tires, but younger owners hacked software and designed bespoke interface skins. The Mustang community evolved in real time, blending wrench culture with coding culture. It wasn't about carburetors anymore, it was about code. That evolution kept the Mustang relevant to a generation raised on gaming and digital customization. Economically, the Ford Mustang 2025 also became a quiet symbol of resilience for Detroit. The production lines that built it represented thousands of jobs directly tied to the future of American performance manufacturing. As factories retooled for more versatile platforms capable of building combustion, hybrid, and electric variants, the Mustang became the template for Ford's transition strategy. In policy circles, that adaptability earned praise. The message was simple but powerful. Detroit doesn't have to die to go green, it just has to think differently. Global markets took notice. While the Mustang has always been an export success, the 2025 model expanded its reach in regions where emissions compliance had sidelined previous generations. Updated safety tech, improved fuel efficiency, and an optional mild hybrid assist allowed it to pass strict European regulations without losing its personality. For American car culture, that global recognition reinforced something fans had always believed, that the Mustang wasn't just a product. It was a symbol of freedom on 4 wheels, recognizable anywhere. The balance Ford struck, however, remains delicate. In performance circles, the arrival of electric rivals sparked constant comparison. Every launch from another manufacturer brought new metrics: instant torque, longer range, faster acceleration. And the Mustang, despite its evolution, still played by combustion's rules. Yet that ironically became its advantage. While others chased numbers, the 2025 Mustang chased emotion. Ford leaned into the sensory appeal of driving. The visceral thrill of throttle response, the harmony between sound and speed. It wasn't about silence and statistics, it was about sensation. Owners echoed that sentiment in their stories. The first deliveries in the US turned parking lots into pop-up car meets. Drivers shared that it wasn't just the horsepower that impressed them, but the confidence that the Mustang still meant something. Owning one wasn't just buying a car, it was participating in a lineage that had survived decades of industry reinvention. The emotional ROI, as many put it, felt worth more than any spec sheet. From an engineering perspective, the Mustang 2025 also redefined Ford's internal development philosophy. The modular platform underpinning it allows for multiple evolutions without complete redesigns. This means future variants, whether hybrid or all-electric, can build on the same structural DNA. It's an efficient approach that ensures the brand can adapt quickly as regulations shift. For enthusiasts, it guarantees continuity. The car they love today forms the bones of whatever tomorrow brings. But with progress comes pressure. The Mustang's continued existence depends on sales, and that depends on cultural relevance. The 2025 model succeeded in re-energizing the brand, but Ford knows the next step, likely an electrified or hybridized variant, will be another battlefield. The challenge will be retaining the car's heartbeat when the V8 finally bows out. Every update brings that day closer. Yet every model like the 2025 delays it with defiant charm. The cultural reaction to the Ford Mustang 2025 reveals a larger truth. Americans still crave authenticity, even as technology transforms every corner of life. The car's success proves that evolution doesn't have to erase identity. It can amplify it. For Detroit, that's more than marketing. It's survival. The Mustang's continued dominance keeps the city relevant in a global industry that once seemed determined to leave it behind. What the Ford Mustang 2025 did was rekindle a feeling, a reminder that innovation doesn't mean abandoning passion. It reestablished that a machine can be modern without being sterile, powerful without being reckless, and emotional without being outdated. The stakes for Ford were massive, but so was the payoff. Next, we'll look at where this all leads, how the Ford Mustang 2025's success reshaped Ford's roadmap, what it means for the future of American muscle, and why this generation might be remembered as the pivot point between tradition and transformation. The Ford Mustang 2025 became more than a car. It became a cultural pivot point, a statement about how legacy and innovation can coexist. By the time the first full production year wrapped, the Mustang had done something few vehicles manage. It satisfied purists while seducing a new generation raised on tech and sustainability. What makes the Ford Mustang 2025 fascinating isn't just what it achieved, it's what it represents for the road ahead. Every decision Ford made with this model was a calculated bet on the future of performance, and each risk carries ripple effects that will shape the next decade of American automotive identity. As Ford executives watched global sales numbers and feedback roll in, one truth became undeniable. The Mustang brand had outgrown its role as a mere performance coupe. It had become the emotional anchor of Ford's identity. The 2025 Mustang proved that even in an era obsessed with range and connectivity, emotion still sells. That lesson reshaped Ford's internal priorities. Instead of developing cars solely to meet regulations or market quotas, they began emphasizing emotional functionality, vehicles that deliver feeling as much as efficiency. The Mustang, once the company's rebellious side project, evolved into its philosophical North Star. For Detroit, the Ford Mustang 2025 was more than a commercial success. It was validation. It proved that the city's legacy wasn't frozen in nostalgia. The same factories that once echoed with the sound of stamping presses and roaring engines now hummed with robots assembling digitally calibrated powertrains. Workers retrained, engineers reimagined, and a proud industrial heart found rhythm in a new century. The Mustang symbolized that transformation, proof that the Motor City could still build legends, even if those legends spoke in kilowatts and code as much as horsepower and gas. Enthusiast culture followed suit. Car meets began blending analog and digital traditions. Owners showcased their builds alongside laptops, tuning software and custom code next to wrenches and socket sets. The Ford Mustang 2025 didn't just bridge eras, it bridged generations. Older fans respected it for keeping the spirit alive. Younger fans embraced it for bringing their digital world into the driver's seat. The community became more inclusive, more experimental, more curious. Where once the question was, is it real? Now it was, how far can we take it? The 2025 Mustang also redefined collectability. Historically, the value of a Mustang was tied to rarity, performance options, or historical moments. Now, digital customization added a new layer. Owners could personalize interfaces, sound profiles, and even drive dynamics, creating unique digital fingerprints for each car. Collectors began preserving factory software versions like previous generations preserved original carburetors. In doing so, the Mustang entered a new era of personalization, one where heritage wasn't static, it was programmable. In the broader market, the Mustang's success forced competitors to rethink strategy. Some rival manufacturers who had gone all in on electrification began considering hybrid solutions that retained more traditional sensory appeal. Others doubled down on tech dominance, but the conversation had changed. Thanks to the Ford Mustang 2025, authenticity became as important as innovation. Drivers didn't just want speed. They wanted connection, narrative, and history. Ford's gamble had reframed the industry's emotional language. Still, the Mustang's future remains a tightrope walk. The 2025 generation might be the last to feature a naturally aspirated V8 as emissions rules grow stricter. That reality casts a nostalgic shadow over its success, making this car both a celebration and a farewell tour for an era of raw combustion. Yet Ford has made it clear, even if the engines change, the essence won't. The next evolution, whether hybrid or electric, will carry forward the same design DNA, proportions, and attitude that define a Mustang. The challenge is not to replicate the sound, but to replicate the feeling. In that sense, the Ford Mustang 2025 acts as the blueprint for the brand's next leap. It demonstrated that technology can amplify character rather than dilute it, that digital design can evoke analog emotion. Every future Ford performance car will carry lessons from this model. Keep the driver central, make every feature purposeful, and never underestimate the power of nostalgia when blended with progress. The Mustang became a masterclass in balance, a modern legend forged through respect for what came before. Culturally, the car has already earned a place among icons. Film directors, video game designers, and influencers alike seized on its symbolism, a fusion of rebellion and refinement. The Mustang 2025 appeared in digital racing platforms within months of release, instantly becoming a virtual favorite. For millions who might never own one, that virtual exposure turned admiration into aspiration. It kept the Mustang myth alive in a generation that might never smell gasoline, yet still crave speed and freedom. But perhaps the deepest impact lies in how the Mustang 2025 redefined performance for everyday life. The idea that power could coexist with responsibility resonated beyond enthusiasts. It became part of a larger American narrative. Progress doesn't have to erase heritage. From garages in Michigan to highways in California, the car became shorthand for the belief that innovation can honor tradition instead of replacing it. The Mustang 2025 also pushed Ford toward a more unified global strategy. By leveraging the same modular platform for both performance and efficiency-focused vehicles, Ford created a sustainable business model that could weather fluctuating fuel prices and regulatory environments. That stability ensures the Mustang nameplate won't fade as a nostalgic relic. It will continue evolving as a living, breathing brand. As time moves forward, the 2025 Mustang will likely be remembered as the pivot point, the car that stood in the middle of the combustion to electric transition and made both sides make sense. Collectors will prize it for being the last of its kind, while historians will praise it for lighting the path forward. It's that rare machine that feels like an ending and a beginning at once, and for drivers, it delivers what every Mustang has promised since 1964, a connection to the road, a sense of ownership over every mile, and that unmistakable feeling of possibility every time the key, or in this case, the start button, is pressed. Next, we'll wrap it all together, how the Ford Mustang 2025 affects buyers today, what to expect in terms of value, maintenance, and collectability, and why this car might stand as Detroit's defining statement in the age of transformation. For anyone looking at the Ford Mustang 2025 today, the question isn't whether it's fast, it's whether it's the right kind of fast for the future. This generation stands at a crossroads between what the Mustang was and what it's becoming, and that makes it uniquely important for American buyers. The Ford Mustang 2025 delivers a performance experience that's visceral yet accessible, bold yet grounded in reality. For enthusiasts, that means ownership feels both nostalgic and forward-looking, a rare combination in modern automotive culture. On the practical side, the Mustang 2025 offers more than just emotion. Reliability data from early production runs has been encouraging. The Coyote V8's refinements have made it both more durable and easier to maintain. Routine servicing remains straightforward, and aftermarket support is already abundant. The transmission options, especially the manual, demand care, but reward it with long-term engagement that few modern cars provide. Owners report that even with the digital systems, the core mechanics feel reassuringly analog where it counts. For those considering the automatic, The software tuning and adaptive logic mean smoother driving in cities and instant aggression on highways. It's a car that adapts to lifestyle as easily as it adapts to terrain. Pricing tells another story of accessibility. Ford intentionally kept the base models within reach for younger enthusiasts, while the higher trims, particularly the Dark Horse variant, command a premium for their track capabilities and unique engineering touches. In the US market, that balance keeps the Mustang 2025 competitive, even as EV prices fluctuate. Used examples are already holding value well, especially manual versions with clean configurations and limited-run colors. For collectors, early production models with minimal digital customization may become desirable as the last pure expression of a mechanical Mustang before electrification inevitably takes over. From a driving perspective, the ownership reality of the Ford Mustang 2025 feels remarkably balanced. It's comfortable enough for daily use, refined enough for long trips, and yet feral enough when pushed to remind you why this badge still matters. Fuel economy isn't groundbreaking, but it's respectable given the performance. Owners are trading a few extra fill-ups for genuine driving satisfaction. Insurance rates remain moderate for the segment, though the new tech features and higher replacement costs on digital components slightly increase premiums. Still, that hasn't slowed demand. The waiting lists at some dealers tell the story. Culturally, owning a Ford Mustang 2025 in the United States feels like joining a living timeline. At meets, cars from every decade park side by side, the 2025 model often drawing crowds not because it's the newest, but because it represents continuity. The fact that Ford resisted the urge to electrify it immediately gives enthusiasts time to celebrate what's left of the gasoline era. And yet the Mustang's underlying platform makes it clear this isn't a farewell. It's a prelude. The hybrid or fully electric successors will owe everything to the groundwork laid here. Import availability remains limited but promising. Ford's global strategy means select regions outside the US can acquire the 2025 Mustang through direct channels, with performance specifications nearly identical to the domestic models. For Americans living abroad or international buyers craving a taste of Detroit's evolution, it's a rare chance to own an authentic piece of that heritage. The US market, however, remains the heart of production and passion, the place where the Mustang still feels most at home, roaring down highways built for its story. For reliability, long-term owners should keep an eye on the digital systems. Software updates and interface longevity will define future ownership satisfaction. Ford's over-the-air update capability is a major step forward, ensuring performance and functionality improve with time rather than degrade. It's another subtle sign that the brand is learning from tech-driven industries. Maintenance costs are slightly higher than previous generations, but offset by better efficiency and fewer mechanical issues thanks to improved engineering. Looking ahead, the Ford Mustang 2025 will likely hold its reputation as a bridge generation, the last to offer a pure combustion heart and the first to fully embrace digital identity. Collectors will remember it as the modern classic, enthusiasts will drive it daily, and historians will cite it as the car that kept Detroit emotionally relevant in an era of quiet efficiency. Its success isn't just measured in sales or specs, it's in how it reconnected people to the idea that performance can evolve without losing its pulse. In the end, the Ford Mustang 2025 is more than a model year, it's a manifesto. It declares that the future of driving can still be human, that emotion has a place in innovation, and that some legends don't retire. They adapt. For anyone standing at the edge of change, wondering what happens to passion when progress takes the wheel, the Mustang offers the answer in one elegant motion. Start the engine, feel the hum, and drive into tomorrow knowing the story isn't over.